On.
Coach? Probably not as good as you. I don't know what to ask you at this point, Coach. How do you guys keep on doing this?
You know, that's a great question. Sometimes I don't know how we keep doing it either. But you know, it starts at the top. You know, Coach Freeman allows us on special teams to use some of our frontline players, and we have some really good defensive players that are on the punt block team in particular that are just bought in, and you start to have some success, and it just kind of builds on it, and they're excited to have more success, and we just got to keep pushing to find ways to get better. So there's more walkthrough time that those guys are doing. There's more film study those guys are doing, and the more they can do, the more the experience they get with it, just kind of the momentum keeps on going.
Is this the most success you've had as a special teams coach in terms of what you guys have been doing in your career?
I don't know defining the most success because there's so many different units. Certainly the punt block team's having a lot of success. There's some other areas we would certainly like to continue to improve, especially in some of the return game. You know, we were really successful last year. I think winning games is kind of the most important thing. Certainly we just want to keep on winning games. So.
Coach, did you get a chance to hear the fans saying blocked it, Shannon blocked it, pointing it, so what was your kind of reaction?
People told me they were saying that. I was just kind of like, I know it sounds crazy, but I was just like so focused on what was going on, I couldn't really even hear any of that. And then after we blocked it, I was kind of so shocked and blacked out that I just was kind of like losing my mind, excited, and I couldn't hear really anything, I don't think. So.
Yeah, what was that like with Freeman? I think I saw him like pull you back off the sideline, off the field.
I probably should have controlled my emotions a little bit better. I'll get better at that next time. But it was just obviously an emotional high, really excited. Couldn't believe that. Obviously in that moment, what a night from start to finish was unbelievable.
Brian, why now? Why now getting success on special teams? What led up to this moment?
I think we've been building to that moment all year. Certainly we've obviously had a lot of success. I think we blocked 6 punts and probably had another 6 we could have blocked. So there's been a lot of that's been able to go on. I think in most of those other areas we've been really consistent. Certainly we wanted to make that field goal and start off the game punting a little bit better. Some of those windy conditions and things makes it a little bit more difficult, but we can execute better. It certainly wasn't a perfect game by any means.
Coach, they had a really good punt block unit as well. As a special teams coach, do you come into a game and you're like, you know, obviously this is an extra challenge. We want to win this battle. And does that rev you guys up that much more? And is that something that can help you rev up your players? Is that something that was a little motivation in any way? Knowing that, a little competition in some capacity maybe?
Yeah, so Clemson didn't have a punt block team per se. They blocked 2 punts against Georgia Tech. They had 2 guys that were really good at kind of beating one-on-one matchups at times. For the most part, they're a more play it safe, hold up kind of a team. So we weren't necessarily thinking that we were going to be challenged by them, especially if we did our job, because they weren't necessarily the most aggressive unit. But this week, Navy is a really good punt block team. Whether they have some blocks on paper or not, they do a really good job of putting stress on people and being aggressive in very similar ways that we do, and that's a great challenge for us this week.
Brian, we focused on punt block, but opportunity against Navy for punt return and kickoff return.
Absolutely. Those are 2 areas that we would like to continue to generate more. We took some steps forward in kickoff return 2 weeks ago. We did not have an opportunity last week, but you know, every opportunity we get, we want to continue to keep improving in kickoff return. That's one of the areas that we've kind of been challenged in to be better at, that we struggled in to start the year.
Same personnel back there?
There may be some different personnel back there. You know, obviously Joe Wilkins stepped away and he had been back there. Obviously Brandon Joseph is questionable and he had been back there as well. So there could be some different pieces we kind of play with tomorrow.
Generally speaking, the special teams punt block unit isn't necessarily the most highlighted, you know, part of a football team, but knowing that that's part of the identity of the team this year, what has that meant and what has the responsibility been like for you?
You know, we want to be, you know, kind of the brand on special teams. We don't want to just be special teams, so we say it's chaos kills because we want to generate chaos in the game. So we're trying to be aggressive, tough, and disciplined. So in order to be aggressive, certainly in something like the punt block aspect of things, we want to show that we're being aggressive and affecting the punter. So that's just kind of built into our mentality of what we're trying to be, is be aggressive in all phases. And that's kind of the mentality of the program that we want as well.
What's kind of allowed Jordan to kind of ascend in that role that Bo Bauer kind of vacated when he got hurt over the last couple of weeks?
Jordan Patella's, especially, in punt block and kickoff, he's just naturally a really physical and aggressive person. He's just kind of got that mentality. So being able to be on some of those units where he can kind of, have a simple task and just let it loose and go make plays, that's going to be something that really fits him. He's just kind of gotten better and better with more experience. He had a moment where very similar to the Clemson game and the BYU game where he was kind of cut free up the middle of the shield and he didn't finish and make the play. And I think he kind of learned from that and used that as fuel to now, hey, in the biggest game of the year so far, on a Saturday night against Clemson, he had the exact same thing that happened in the BYU game, and he made the play in kind of the biggest moment possible. So that was huge growth, and it was awesome.
You mentioned before that you get sort of a limited time with players in order to implement the schemes that you want that week. Does it vary which sort of units that you dedicate more of that time to, depending on the opposing team's strength that week? Or do you typically try to assign the same amount of time for each?
No, we usually spend a little bit more time on certain units that could be putting more stress that week. This team is a little bit trickier in this phase, so they do more trick kickoffs. We're going to spend more time on kickoff return. They've showed more trick formations and punts or fakes. We're going to spend more time working on those tricky or unusual situations with those different units.
How good a job is your side and the punt protectors for him doing this year to avoid getting in headlines that way?
Yeah, certainly we don't want it to be flipped back on us for sure. So Davis Sherwood Woody has been an awesome middle shield. He was a shield here last year. He had experience doing it. He's really run the show and did an unbelievable job. We've actually switched up some of the different personnel that's been back there. Kevin Bauman started off the year back there and got hurt. Alex Ahrensberger has kind of rotated in. But they've done a really good job back there, and certainly we need to have situational awareness on, hey, when do we need to get rid of the ball fast? What are the different situations we're in? And the middle shield and Woody have to be able to communicate those things to everybody on the unit, and Saad as a punter has to have really good awareness of how fast to get rid of the ball.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it.